What happens when your worst fear becomes your reality? Hi, I'm Brent Cassidy. Welcome to Nightmare Success In and Out Podcast, where we explore how to overcome your fears and nightmares to set yourself free. We're going to be exploring this topic with guys I was in Leavenworth with. We're going to be talking about life before prison, life in prison, and life out of prison. These stories can be inspiring, sometimes sad. There's some humor, but hopefully you can come away with a nugget of something that will help you knock down some of the prisons you've built up in your own mind. Folks, today I have Mr. Michael Hughes with me. Michael, welcome.
Thanks, Brent. Thank you.
Let's put a clap to that.
Yeah, I heard that on Jim.
Yeah.
Pretty much on everybody, Jim.
Yeah, well, you got to use it. And this is a live audience here that we got, so you've really brought in a lot of people, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm glad you advertised it.
So, Mike, this is really something, because we were just talking before we got on here how many miles we walked in the yard, on the fence, on that sidewalk, against the barbed wire fence, and here we are talking on a podcast.
Yeah, I don't know how many miles. I wish I could figure out how many miles I ran on that fence, because I really got into running.
I got to tell you, man, I lost 35 pounds in prison, and you went on you go 0 to 60 on everything. What did you lose in prison?
I walked out of prison at 206 pounds. I think I weighed, when I went in, I was like 265. I mean, I was tearing it up before I went in. So I bet you I lost 50 pounds.
Damn.
I came out of prison. Matter of fact, I came out of prison, and within, I think, 4 months after I got out, maybe 6 months after I got out, I went and I ran a half marathon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I hated to run. I hated to run in the military, and I still hate to run, but I did it just because I just wanted to do it.
Well,
just wanted to say that I did
you
it.
ran all the time when we were in the yard there, and everybody was like walking, and you were running like a madman.
Yeah. Still run now. Not much. Not as much as I did.
See, I quit running. I tore both my patella tendons halfway through, and they didn't think that was a good. They could either go in and they could repair it, or they just said quit playing basketball with these guys. I was like 40 years old, and probably not running would be good. So I went to the bike route. Now that stationary bike is downstairs, and I just do that. And
okay, good.
It's not the same.
Good.
It's not the same.
No,
it's not the same endorphin high. No, doesn't do the same
at
thing.
all.
No. Well, I got to tell you, Mike, one of the things I before we get into everything, one of the things I remember is you and me, it was almost like an escape for me when you and I talked, because we could talk business, and you were so damn smart with ideas, and I don't know if I run across anybody that you can do numbers in your head and calculate this stuff out. It's scary to me.
That was one of the problems.
But I loved it because it was fun. And when we went through RDAP together, which is the program you get a year off from, and we got to do stuff together in there, and with we had like little sets that we did on, setting goals and that kind of thing we did. And it was, it kind of felt like we were out of prison. I always see our relationship that was one of my escapes in prison is kind of hooking up and teaming up with you on different things. And it was like, okay, we're doing this. And it's almost like we're at a business meeting.
Yeah.
And
and the other thing, through that whole, and it was funny when listening to Mark Glover when he was on. I had a call with him after, and for that time that I was there, I saw guys that were down for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here I am, and I knew that if I got RDAP, I'd be done in about 14 months or so. So I always hated bringing that up, but Mark said to me after, he goes, Mike, it took me a minute to realize that 14 minutes is too long.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how long it is, but having the time separated did me a lot of good in a lot of different areas. Yeah. Having that time separated from all of the just madness and of life. And I felt like, I wanted to be productive on several different levels.
When you were
while
in.
I was there, when I was in,
and you were, and you were,
and I felt like I made the most of it.
No, and I know we're jumping way ahead of everything, but I mean, you getting involved with the education department, doing all the stuff that you did, it was really cool, and I think that's, we'll talk about this, but that's one of the tips I think is don't ever lose you, because regardless of the circumstances, keep being you, because if you lose you, then you can go down that slippery slope of being institutionalized, and that's never where you want to go.
Yeah, ugly place to be, right?
Ugly place to be. So, Mike, you and I haven't talked about this, so take me back to Mike Hughes growing up. What was life like with little Michael Hughes?
Well, my whole life revolved around athletics.
Yeah.
Terrible academics.
That shocks me because you're so goddamn smart.
Yeah, I hated school from Jump Street. Yeah. I mean, literally from my first day of kindergarten, I can remember, getting in trouble for cutting a girl ahead of me. I went to a Catholic school, and she was sitting there and her hair was hanging on my desk, and I remember cutting her hair with the scissors they give you.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good.
No, I got in trouble day one. And I hated school, but man, I lived for, getting out of that classroom and hitting the baseball field.
That's you want to hear something funny about those scissors in kindergarten? I couldn't cut with them because I was left-handed. I didn't have left-handed scissors. And so the teacher would look at me like, and she kind of shake her head like, this kid can't even cut paper. Back in those days, they didn't have left-handed scissors. Well, that was my start. So
so I just I played a ton of baseball. Started baseball real young.
Where'd you grow up though? You were up east.
I grew up in Central New York.
Yeah.
We
huge Syracuse fan.
Huge Syracuse fan. Love the Q's. Love the Q's. I wish they'd get rid of Boeheim, but just love the Q's. We left Syracuse, I think, when I was 9, and we went to Las Vegas for a year because my dad's brother was out there, and they decided to move back home. My grandfather got sick, and my mom was the first time away from her family, so it was real hard on her. So we went back to Syracuse, and it was different than when I was growing up. I mean, we lived most of the time when I was, before we moved to Vegas, we lived most of the time in the city, and city's a city.
What was the family unit? You got your mom and dad, and
my mom, my dad. I got a sister, my sister Beth, and tons of cousins. Of cousins.
What were mom and dad like? What were mom and dad like?
Hard workers, man. Yeah. My dad is my dad's 75 now. He still drives truck.
I love it.
And he just doesn't want to give it up. He says they're paying too much money to stay on a wheel.
We need him.
And mom worked for the phone company, and she worked for the phone company in Syracuse, and then she worked for Merck for a while. And just a real good family. Yeah. I mean, a great family. The extended family, grandparents, my mom's parents. I was super close with my grandfather until he died when I was, I guess I had just turned 12. He passed, and super tight with him. I was his first grandchild.
Yeah.
Was really, really close with him. He was a World War II vet.
Yeah.
I can remember going as a kid with him. I just thought it was so cool going to the Pearl Harbor Survivors Association clam bakes.
Oh yeah.
Seeing all these guys to me were larger than life, you know. Heroes. And now, now at 53, I realized just how much those guys actually did.
Oh yeah.
I see it now, but I got to experience that.
What was high school like for you, Mike? Because you were playing sports and that. Did you think you were going to go pro baseball? Were you going to be the guy?
I was like everybody else in high school, and I was just so bad academically. I mean, just terrible. I did everything just to get by academically. And so when it came time for college, I remember all the guys. So I was a catcher. All the guys that I caught. So for instance, we had five guys my junior year. Our pitching staff, 5 guys: Georgia Tech, Seton Hall, George Washington University, Kentucky, and Cornell. And here I am Well, I wonder what community college I'm going to.
How awesome is that? You caught all those guys.
Yeah, great ball players.
Wow.
Great ball players. Competed against some great players.
Yeah.
That's often overlooked in Central New York just because of we just don't get enough at bats. And I turned 17 when I graduated, so I had an extra year of summer ball with the Babe Ruth team, and my last season playing Babe Ruth ball, we went to the Babe Ruth World Series. That was pretty cool. That was a great experience.
That would be huge.
Yeah, it was a great experience. And then, I went out to UNLV.
Yeah.
And my wife and I, we met.
Running Rebels.
Running Rebels. I hated them. That was back when Larry Johnson was there.
I remember that.
And Anderson Hunt.
Yeah.
Couldn't stand them. And I think I was the only guy in the bar cheering for Duke when Duke beat them. They were undefeated.
Who was the old coach that sucked on the towels? I can't remember his name.
Jerry Tarkanian.
Ah, Sarkanian. How could I forget his name?
I have no idea. He should have been in there with us.
Yeah.
Golly.
So you went to UNLV. What'd you major in?
Yeah.
I mean,
criminal justice.
Oh, way to be, Mike.
Yeah. You like that.
Yeah.
You like that.
That's nice. Welcome aboard. Political science major, criminal justice. Here we are.
Yeah. So I left there. I ended up going in the military for 4 years. My wife and I got married, and we got pregnant with our first son, Patrick, in 1992. And August, I think, of 91 is when the invasion of Iraq took place.
Yep.
And I went down and I enlisted. And the earliest I could get in was April. I left for basic training on April 2nd of 1992.
Do you think that you joined the military because of your relationship with your grandpa?
I think it was a part of it.
Yeah.
My family had served for the most part. My grandfather, after he came, he was dead set against war. Like, he was dead set against the Vietnam War. I remember that as a kid, him talking about it. But, when I went in the military, I really thrived because of the organization, the regimentation. I had a set structure every day, and that's where I thrived.
I'm curious, Mike, because you and I never talked about this. Is there any similarity to your time that you spent in the military and prison time?
Structure. 100% structure.
Okay.
100% structure. Some of I don't know. The COs could give a shit about you, honestly. Mm-hmm. I mean, they don't care. They're there to do their job,
count.
Move on. Yeah, count. Some of them are there to torment you.
Right.
My experience in the military about people that were in that position of authority was completely different. Mm-hmm. They were there to train you, lead you, teach you. Everything they did was to try and make you a better individual.
Yeah.
And a better team member.
Yeah.
And I had a great 4 years in the Army. I mean, it was fabulous. I went to basic training at Fort Jackson, and then they sent me to probably, if it's not the worst duty station to send a private, it's top 5.
Yeah.
They sent me to language school in Monterey, California.
Okay.
And I'm there as a private, and I'm making, I think my check at the time was, Shannon could tell you to a penny. I think it was like $980.
Way to go.
Our rent was $690, and our car payment was $213. So you can do the math.
I can't do
so
the
Shannon
math.
Shannon gets.
I'm not good at math.
She goes, oh, I got to get a job immediately. So she started working. I'm going to school during the day. It was a language school, so I was there studying Russian.
Yeah.
And
Russian.
I did 6.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Studied Russian there. I did 16 months. And the funny story, my mom, she wasn't really supportive of the military. When I left, she said, well, where do you think you're going to go after this? I said, I don't know. I'm going to language school. I called her when I got my orders. and I told her, well, Mom, I found out I'm going to Monterey, California, and for language school. And she said, well, what language? And I said, Russian. And she said, and my mom, I swear on this program, my mom says to me, she goes, "You're fucked." She said, "You're going to fail out of that." She goes, "United States, Michael, you couldn't even pass French. You're going to study Russian." I said, "It'll be all right." Well, and the difference was, Brent, the difference when I got into language school with the military is they taught you not only a language, they taught you how to study.
Yeah.
I learned how to study in the military.
The discipline.
I ended up, the discipline to study. I ended up, and I had to study, pretty hard because like I said, I wasn't a great student, but it was a new subject for everybody. And I ended up graduating as an honor grad.
Yeah.
Top 5 in my class. Everything was fine. And then I went from there to the 24th Infantry Division.
Wow.
Down at Fort Stewart, Georgia.
I think it's so interesting because, you didn't like school, but when you decided to focus on it, you have a brilliant mind. And then once you got focused and they got you in the right path, you were good to go.
Well, yeah, and it was just the structure. I mean, I didn't have any academic structure when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
None. If I was passing, Dad didn't say a word. If I brought, and how high school is. I mean, if I brought home B's, everything was
all good.
So
yeah,
I see low B, I'm in, man. And I think we did a point scoring system. So I graduated from high school with like a 78% overall GPA.
Okay.
And
you made it.
I made it. That's all I cared about. And I got in a little trouble in high school drinking.
Yeah.
And this is just an example.
Normal kid.
Of yeah, and the problem was that I was drinking a lot and a lot. It was at every weekend event, and when I got suspended, we had to do a superintendent conference hearing, so we had to go see the superintendent, not the principal. Big school.
Yeah.
My high school had close to 4,000 students.
Oh my God, that is big.
Big school.
Yeah.
So we go in front of the superintendent, and the guy says, my mom and dad are there. He says, Mr. Hughes, I've heard kind of through the grapevine, other students that, you may have a drinking problem.
He's heard this through the grapevine.
Yeah, so my dad jumps to my defense. That's bullshit. He doesn't have a drinking problem. Well, by God, I did.
But good for your dad, defending the son. Yeah, I like that.
That was the first salvo.
Did you think? But seriously, at that time, did you think you had a drinking problem? No.
No.
You just you thought you could handle it, and it was all good, and you were the life of the party.
Everybody in my family drank.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we started drinking, young.
Yeah.
Young. So yeah, I didn't recognize it. I didn't realize it until probably, I don't know, my third or fourth year.
Hughes has Irish in it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking Hughes and Cassidy here. So they teach you early. Yeah.
Yeah. Real early.
Okay.
So I didn't recognize it until I was, in my late 20s.
Yeah. So, you didn't get shipped over anywhere to the trouble. Okay. What made you decide that wasn't going to be a career for you?
It wasn't going to be a career?
Yeah. Because, some people, once they like it, they send 25 years in there.
When we had our second son, I realized that it would just be too difficult for Shannon and the kids.
Yes. Traveling around, moving, all the stuff that goes along with it. Yeah.
Yeah, because like you said, I do everything, 0 to 60
you do.
right now.
For those who are listening, this man is a 0 to 60 guy. It's black, white. There's no in between. But I love that about you, Hughes.
Stationed at National Training Center at Fort Irwin. I was in a unit called the Op 4, and it was a 1-year duty station.
Yeah.
And we were downrange 28 out of 30 days. And then we'd get 2 or 3 days off. You'd go 28 days on, 3 days off. And I was coming up for re-enlistment, and the re-enlistment NCO says, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, if I'm gonna do anything, I want to look at what it looks like being attached to an SF unit, right? Because I loved intel, and I loved everything about being in the field. And So I went home to Shannon and I told her, so I can get these orders to Bad Tolz, Germany. That's the good news. Because she's been to Germany. That's the good news.
All right.
The bad news for you is it's with the 10th Special Forces Group, and I'm going to be gone a lot. And we just made a family decision. It was the best thing for us was to move on, you know? So I got out on March 16th of 1996. And I had that weekend off. So March 16th was like, let's just say I think it was a Tuesday, maybe a Wednesday when I got out. I went back. Shannon was staying in Vegas with my mom and dad. So I drove about 3.5 hours. I go down to, I remember this. I went to JCPenney's and got some dress clothes so I could start my new job on March 17th.
Okay. The next day.
Next day.
You're looking
selling
sharp.
Cars.
Yeah.
Selling cars.
Yeah.
You know, and I had to go get some pants, some white shirts and some ties.
Yep.
And that's what I did. And I got onto the car lot at 8 a.m. on March 17th and sold my first car by noon, and I was hooked.
You are a great salesman, though, Michael.
I loved it.
You are a great
I loved
salesman.
It, but I can also tell you this, though. By June, I just was telling this story today. June of that year, of 96, I went home, and it was 110 degrees in Vegas. It was hot. We were living in Las Vegas.
That'd be a hot car lot.
Hot. And I said, I'm going to tell you this right now. I said, this time next year, I'm going to be in finance. I'm not doing this for my whole life. And
but hey, that's a good tip though, because being in the car business. I mean, and we're going to talk shop a little bit here, but being in the car business though, it does teach you a lot about finance, doesn't it? I mean, it gives you all the tools that you need to be able to
finance.
Yeah,
basic. Car notes and things, leases, things like that. But yeah, I just made that decision. I talked one of the F&I guys into training me. So I'd get off work, I'd get off my shift at 7 o'clock, let's say, and I'd sit there and train with him for 2-3 hours a night until I got it down. And the opening came up and they said, well, we need a finance guy. And he said, we need to put an ad out. And he said, why? We got a guy right here.
Okay. I want to stop you there because I think there's a big gold nugget on that, is that when you're trying to get to the next step, it's always good to humble yourself and figure out who's doing it right on what you want. And you went to the guy, the F&I guy, you knew you wanted to be in finance and you were willing to put in the extra hours to figure that job out. That's a big deal. Yeah. A lot of people don't take that step.
Yeah. And when I told them I wanted to be going to F&I, they said, well, you're going to have to pay to go to the school. And the school's like $3,000. And, I was like, nah, I don't have the money right now. Mm-hmm. I've got 2 kids, and then when Mark told me that he would help me and teach me, I just sat in that office with him for hours and learned. I didn't get paid shit for it. It's off the clock. It's on my time.
I love it. Love it.
And he advocated for me when that opportunity came up.
He would, because he was part of you. He's on your team.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, and I still talk to that guy today. Matter of fact, I think he does some part-time work in the car business. Mark's probably, 8 or 10 years older than me. He plays a lot of guitar now.
Yeah.
Great musician. But, he was a big catalyst for me getting into finance and also into cocaine, but that's another story.
It's a whole nother deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get into F&I and you're not walking the hot lot. So
yeah, making good money.
You're in the car business.
I'm in the car business, and let's see, that was up until 19. So I was there about 3 years, making great money, and I got caught up in all of the stuff that
it's like being in a nightclub.
100%.
Car business is like nightclub business.
The car business in the 90s was an absolute Wild West free for all when it came to drugs and alcohol.
Yeah,
that's what it was. You see the movies that they make that are, some of the boiler room stuff.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that going on. And I was young. I didn't have that structure in my life that I talked about.
Easy to fall into.
Yeah, I didn't carry that structure out of the military into my civilian life due to, if I really look at myself honestly, it's because of my maturity level. I was just so immature, and,
you're making money.
Terrible combination. Immaturity with money. That is a terrible combination.
And I think there's another element to it. I think that in that type of situation, you're also with people that you're kind of feeling like are your mentors and you're looking up to, and they're all doing it and it's all good. And everybody's making this tidal wave happen with money and things are happening and it's all good.
Yeah. And I mean, there was just blow everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, everywhere. Plus we're in Vegas, it was just absolutely insane. And I did a lot of shit that brought me to the point that landed me in prison.
But let me ask you something, Mike, because when all that was going on and you're making it, and you're making money and you're going and you're driving yourself, was Shannon like aware of you doing this, or was this kind of a side thing?
I hid it a lot from her. I hid a lot of the use. And, finally I broke down one time because, of course I didn't show up at home on time. And, I finally came clean, tried to get some help, but I wasn't serious. I was just trying to get out of that jackpot.
Yeah.
I just didn't want her to be mad at me anymore. Yeah. So I started down that dance of, I'll get help. That went on for about 4 years, in and out. In the interim, I opened a car lot of my own, a small used car lot, opened a second one, had a garage, was selling a ton of cars, had a ton of, capital running through there.
But I don't want to step over that because one of the things, Mike, I think that you've done in your life is that regardless if you were walking down the wrong path on the personal side, on the business side, you were always willing to take the risk, step into it, and deal with those obstacles up, around, underneath, whatever. And you went through that and were able to get to where you're wanting to go. And I think, a lot of people are always thinking, I'd really like to do that. And you you got your own stuff going. And I think that's a business thing, entrepreneurial thing. Yeah.
And the immaturity and Brent, everything came together during that 2-year period from 3-year period from like 99 to 02.
Yeah.
Where I was able to start building something really cool, and I thought that it was going to, explode. And my personal choices outside of the business caused me to drag it down with me, and then it got to the point where, it was unsustainable personally and professionally. It was unsustainable for my family. I had 3 young children at that time, and I completely, let them down.
Yeah.
I let Shannon down. And then finally, Shannon had to make a decision to protect our family and to protect our children. And that was to divorce me, so in 02, she filed for divorce and we got divorced. And, that was, really some dark years for me, really some dark years, really from 02 to 2011 were just a blur. I mean, an absolute blur.
So how did you handle that, Mike? I mean, because you with all the things you had going on, you're dealing with a divorce, you're dealing with a girl you love, the kids you love, and you know that this is all getting blurry. I mean, what was life like?
So inconsistent, unpredictable. It was just an absolute whirlwind, and I
stayed in Vegas.
Stayed in Vegas. I tried to get clean, wouldn't work. I tried to get clean, and every time I was trying to get clean, I was never really committing to the whole thing.
Yeah,
the whole physical, spiritual recovery.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to use.
Yeah,
but I wasn't willing. You talk about putting the work in, Brent, and I was willing to put the work in where I could see tangible results because I knew if I did, for instance, I know tomorrow, if I walked onto a car lot and I did these set of activities, I would get a known outcome.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
I know what the outcome's going to be.
You got confidence in that. Yeah.
I have confidence in that method.
Yep.
Right. Going through recovery, I wanted a specific outcome. By God, I wanted my family back. I wanted this back. There's no guarantee of that.
Right.
So I wanted that recovery for all the wrong reasons, you know? And so that led to failure after failure after failure. And then in 2005, I had been clean for a short amount of time, and I knew that I had to do something. And I brought my business plan to a friend of mine who was also my attorney. He liked it. What do you need? And I said, I have no office space. I have no money. I have nothing. Just this idea. And he said, well, let's start in that office right there. You can use that office. And as it gets going, I'll start charging you rent. And I said, okay, gave me a computer. I went to work and I started building something, and he saw the success of it. He said, I'd really like to be a part of this. And so I could have, I needed the help. And then we added another partner who was on the acquisition side. And
what kind of business was this?
We were purchasing homes from builders.
Okay.
And we would negotiate large, we would go in, okay, how much for the house? The house is $350. How much if we buy 2? How much if we buy 4? How much if we buy 10? Right. And so the home was worth $350. Okay. But we might get 10 homes for $300,000. Okay. They would sell the homes to a third party that we agreed to property manage for them.
Yeah.
And go 50-50 on the home. And then our company would take cash back at closing of whatever the difference between appraised value and the actual sales price was. It's disclosed on the HUD one and everything. Obviously,
this is your brainchild.
Yeah, I'm doing this, and the attorney says, yeah, this is perfectly legal. And then fast forward to 2007, and some people start getting indicted for things that look really similar to what we were doing. And I bring these articles to the attorney, and he's saying, well, Mike, he was, the devil's in the details. It could be they didn't disclose it properly on the HUD, they didn't disclose it on the contract. He said, but if it'll make you feel better, let's go see this criminal attorney that I know. And we went, and she said, don't miss a payment and you'll be okay.
And that's the wild west of 2007, 2008.
Yeah, what kind of advice is that? Don't miss a payment. Yeah. Wells Fargo's cutting LTVs by 15%. Right. I mean, it's just a matter of time because our acquisition model was unsustainable because we were relying on the traditional capital markets to purchase these homes.
Right.
And we knew I knew 6 months before it happened that it was going to happen. I said, when this market tightens down, we won't be able to pull this capital out of these properties, which is sustaining some of our negative cash flow.
Yep.
Sustaining our negative cash flow.
Yep.
So long story short, we had a disagreement. I said, I'm out, and probably the wrong thing to do. And Jerry said, I'll just take over management. And he did, and tried to wind down the business. I went off the corporation in 2009. I should have gone off of it earlier, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And then, how it all kind of came out. What finally happened is I was broke, didn't know what to do. I picked up again using, and then November, I was back in Syracuse. My dad, gave me a place to stay, and I was just broken.
Where was Shannon?
Had gone there.
Where was Shannon at this point?
He was in Missouri. She had gotten the kids out of Vegas and moved to Missouri, and I was doing the best I could to go back and forth. And in 2009 or 10, I think it was, I had gone back to Syracuse, and my dad, I was broke. I had a truck. That was it. And my dad goes, well, what are you going to do? And I said, you know what, Dad? I mean, we're right in the grips of no economy.
Right.
You know how it is. I don't know. You might not know how it is, but when you get into those Rust Belt areas of the Northeast in manufacturing, if our nation's in a recession, they're in a depression. Right. I mean, it's a bad deal.
Right.
So I went, like this, broke, nothing, can't go sell cars, can't do anything. I go and I said, Dad, I need to borrow your trailer and $1,000. Now, mind you, I've got my truck.
Yeah.
He goes, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to open a power washing company.
Love it.
I go out, I print off some business cards at Vista Print. I buy a tank, and I buy a power washer, and I start going door to door in Syracuse, and I pick up some rental stores, all their vans, and I did those on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I started going door to door to companies, and and I just picked up these jobs over and over, car lots, and finally I got so busy I was like, shit, I can't keep this up.
Yeah,
I can't do this all on my own.
Yeah.
I was doing the canopies for gas stations.
Yeah.
It was
Everything.
literally busy 6 days a week, and making great money. And again, the addiction kicked in. Probably,
how did the addiction kick in? Was it somebody you were with?
It started out in the car business, man. I started doing some blow, and 0 to 60 again, Brent. 0 to 60, man. I did my first line. I was dead set against drugs growing up. Hated drugs. Hated them. Didn't even like smoking weed. Did my first line in called June of '97, and by August of '98, I was doing an 8 ball a day.
Yeah,
and then I got into smoking it, and so that was just a demon I couldn't get off my back. And so November on that, I remember the day like it was yesterday. November 17th of 2011, I had been on 6, 7, 8 day run. And I was in a hotel, all the shades drawn, and I was dead set on just smoking myself to death.
Just going all in. Yeah,
finishing it because I was just killing everybody around me.
Yeah,
and I woke up and there was still a bunch of drugs laying there on the table, and I woke up and I didn't know if it was dawn or dusk. That period where you don't know what time it is
what happened.
Because you're just so out of it. Yeah. And so I walked out of the hotel, and it was November, so it said 6:30. Well, that didn't mean shit to me. That could have been 6:30 at night, 6:30 in the morning. Yeah,
doesn't matter.
So I just started walking because I couldn't find my vehicle.
Yeah.
And where I was staying to the VA, I went back and I drove it later. Was about 6.5 miles. And I walked to the Veterans Administration in Syracuse, New York, and showed up at the emergency room and said, I need help.
Wow.
And this nurse, this male nurse who was a veteran as well, immediately takes my blood pressure, takes my pulse, and it was a bad deal. I was in really bad condition. And he goes, I'm giving you some Valium right now to slow down your heart rate. He goes, I just lost my brother 2 weeks ago to a heroin overdose. He goes, I'm not going to let you die.
Wow.
And
you met the right guy.
I met the right guy at the right time. And so anyhow, I went through a 7-day detox there, started getting serious about recovery. And so right after Thanksgiving, I was working at this office, and I come outside. I was still smoking at the time. And, I can honestly say today, I understand what addicts and alcoholics mean when they say the obsession is lifted, because I couldn't get rid of the obsession no matter what. I mean, it would come back at the damnedest time. But for some reason, after I woke up at the VA, like detoxed, I was like, I just felt different. This weight was off of me, It's like I had surrendered. I felt like surrender,
Yeah.
So I go back to this office to work, and I walk out to have a cigarette, and these two guys approach me, and the guy says, Mike Hughes. I said, yeah. He said, and I'll never forget it. It's like first day you meet your drill sergeants. I know my drill sergeant's names, still to this day, Drill Sergeant Miller, Drill Sergeant Lawson. Guy says, my name's Mike Watson. I'm with the FBI. I was like, you got to be shitting me.
Oh,
I get
God.
clean. And all I could think
it's like a movie
because I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
I had talked to a guy in October, and what really started the run was I called one of my good friends, and he says to me, under advice of counsel, Mike, I can't talk to you. Click. I was like,
that was
what the
it.
hell?
Yeah.
And I kind of knew, but I didn't. So when these guys showed up, I just said to them, I kind of been waiting for you.
Wow.
I knew you were coming, and so that started a fairly long, how that process goes. It's a long process,
forever.
And so that's what happened, man. And I got, but here's the deal, Brent, is that today, I don't care about any of that.
Yeah.
Because I got clean.
Yeah. Isn't that
I got
incredible?
clean.
Isn't that incredible?
I could give a shit about any of that stuff. I got clean.
And so when all that came down and the FBI guys came in and did their stuff and they said it's all coming down on you, how long a process was that? How long did you have to go from, hey, I'm the FBI guy, to I'm Mike Hughes trying to figure out if I'm going to plead this thing out or go to trial?
It was December 2nd of 2011. I pled out October. I mean, it was because there was a lot of people in my case, right?
Mm-hmm.
So October of 13, I had a hearing.
Okay.
And it was a plea hearing. It's when I entered my plea. And then I had a sentencing hearing in March of 14.
Yeah.
And it was March 19th because they gave me 90 days to report.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to, I reported June 19th. I think it was June 19th of 2015 to Leavenworth. And I was a 33-month sentence.
Yeah.
I got 33 months with 2-year supervised release. And it was my
I remember when you got there, Hughes.
Yeah. I mean,
I'd been there. I had been there for about a year or so. And, you're always looking at the guys walking in. And I was thinking, that guy, I kind of want to get to know that guy. He looks interesting to me.
Yeah.
So, but it's like the Shawshank thing where the guys look at the people running up and they see the new guys rocking. Right. Yeah. Hey, that guy looks like somebody I want to get to know.
Well, when I got sentenced, the prosecutor wanted a 5-year supervised release.
Yeah.
And the judge said, well, I'm only ordering 2.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I strongly disagree with that. And she said, well, when you get nominated by a president or appointed by a president and confirmed by the Senate, you can make these decisions. Until then, I was like, I like this lady, So I got the 2-year supervised release, and I went and reported. And
well, tell me about that. Did you voluntarily surrender at Leavenworth?
Voluntarily surrendered at Leavenworth, okay. And I can tell you, and I heard you share.
Talk to me about it. Talk to me about it, Hughes.
I'll tell you the part about Leavenworth is, my wife dropped me off, which we were back together at this point.
Okay.
Gotten clean. Shannon and I got back together.
What a warrior Shannon is.
Absolute.
Oh man, I love Shannon.
Stone cold warrior. So she drops me off, and I can't even imagine what was going through her head because Leavenworth is a pretty imposing place.
Well, it's 1879. It looks like Shawshank Redemption. It's really ugly.
Yeah, and you report and you walk into the main prison, right?
Yes.
And you just hear that metal against metal shutting behind you, and you go, holy shit, this is real, Yeah,
this isn't a movie. I'm in it.
Yeah. And, I so I reported, and I stayed up there a couple hours, I think, and then the van came and got me and brought me back down.
Yeah.
Little minivan brings you down to the camp. And I thought, well, this is a hell of a lot better than where I just was. So my life's already getting
better. Yeah.
I just tried to look at, every day that I was there, is it better than the previous day? And yes, I'm one step closer. I'm one day closer. But what can I do today to make today better than yesterday?
Great tip, Mike. Great tip.
And that's all I tried to do. I read a lot.
Yep. You sure did.
I read a lot. I probably read in that 14. I bet you I read a couple hundred books.
Tell me about how did you get into, because you were kind of the guy that was in the education department, and you should have been, because you are a teacher and you're smart and you're a leader. How did you get that job in prison?
I forgot who mentioned it to me, but they said you need to go to talk to Correction Officer Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in and I think he was off on Mondays, and so he wasn't there. So I went back to my bunk. Still didn't have a job, and the COs are coming.
How long you been there? How long you been there at that point?
Couple
days.
Yeah. Few days.
Yeah.
And, I go back to my bunk and, the COs are bitching at you for being in your bunk. And I'm like, I ain't got a job,
Right.
What
I
do you
got
want me
nothing to do. Help me out. Help me help you.
Yeah, bunk's made. Everything's cool. So, he was off on Monday. So Tuesday I go in and I meet with him. And, he was kind of a prick to start with. But then he kind of, asked me about my background. Told him I was in the, in the military.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the reserves of the Guard at the
Mm-hmm.
time. So, he said, yeah, you can come to work. Here's what I need. And, we started talking about these guys sitting for the GED and, he was just really harsh about it.
Mm-hmm.
These guys ain't going to get it. They're idiots,
mm-hmm.
blah, blah, all the bullshit you get from,
they don't believe in
CEOs.
anybody. Right.
They don't believe, it was more important for him to have, the garden program, which is cool.
Yeah.
But they just didn't have a belief that these guys could learn. And, the biggest problem they had was math.
Yeah.
And
that's
I was
what you're
terrible
good at.
math, but I was terrible at math,
but you're
right?
good
Like I failed
at
algebra.
Yeah.
So, what I've learned was these guys, a lot of these guys, man, they were just never, nobody would ever relate math to their life.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I can tell you right now, the guys that we were in prison with, Brent,
mm-hmm.
could add a quarter and a quarter.
Yes, they could.
They just needed to have that quarter equate.
Figure out how that created something, right? Yeah.
That's right. How did that equate to their life?
Yes.
And so that's the approach that I took. And I had a couple of cool guys that were in there that were really smart. Bob was in there. I forgot Bob's last name, but
mm-hmm.
he was in there. Bob Fine,
yeah,
I think is
Fine.
his name. And he was in there. Fine was in there, and he was a engineer. And,
mm-hmm.
Sean McFarland,
yep.
probably one of the sharpest guys, probably one of the smartest guys.
Yeah, he's smart. Yeah,
smart guy. Sometimes, and just in case he listens to this, too smart for his own good sometimes, I told him that, so that's not me talking.
He'll be listening to you because he was the last podcast. But he is a smart guy.
He's a real smart guy, yeah. So I started doing that, and, I found a little bit of purpose. I took it seriously. To me, it wasn't...
But what a cool thing to do in prison. I always admired your effort that you put into, because I worked in the food warehouse and then I went and worked at the golf course. You were educating these guys to get their GED, and I always thought, man, that's cool.
Yeah, and I can tell you that it helped me from a gratitude.
Yeah. Right.
So I think that sometimes people in general, not just me, not just you, not anybody in particular, but human beings, we sometimes have a tendency to not be able to see just how good our life has been.
Yeah.
And I can make jokes about my high school and me being a poor student. It wasn't because I wasn't given an opportunity. It
right.
wasn't because I didn't have great teachers and like great instructors that didn't care about me. It was because I didn't give a shit.
But how ironic, Mike, that through all that, you end up becoming a teacher leader in prison.
Yeah, it was cool, and it helped me a lot. I mean, it helped me a lot. It helped me day to day. And there were some guys that took getting their GED pretty seriously. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just to go to the class,
right.
to get 3 hours in the afternoon and not have to be wherever. They took it seriously, and some of those guys, I need a little bit of help. Can you help me tonight on this? If we come down to the sure, I'll help you with it. So that's cool.
So Mike, tell me, I know when you're walking through all this stuff and Shannon drops you off at prison, there's hard days in prison. Mm-hmm. How did you work through the strategies of making it work for you?
Like I said earlier, the year, I kind of look at it as I was on the shelf for that time. Right. And, so if I needed just an escape, I would read a lot. Mm-hmm. I would read whatever, because, when you're reading,
which is a great escape,
topic,
by the way.
Yeah. Your mind's on the topic, not on your, not, mm-hmm. You're not, living in your own head with a madman. Mm-hmm. So I would read a lot. I played a lot of basketball, a lot of sports.
Yeah, played softball.
And played softball, played basketball.
You reffed too, which I thought was insane.
That was a bad deal.
I just can't believe you ever did that. I mean, my God, you put the stripes on in prison. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You asked me one time, I remember you came to me one time, you said, Cassidy, you want to help me ref? I said, no.
Yeah, it was terrible from Jump Street.
No,
right?
I didn't even have to think. I didn't have to think a split second about that. And you reffed.
And I'm repping some of these guys, and I have a pretty good friendship with Gutierrez, right?
That wasn't even basketball that you were reffing. I mean, this is hardcore shit going on in there, and you're trying to figure out what's going on.
These guys are all, these guys are you're laughing and playing pinochle with them an hour before, and 2 minutes into the game, they're MFing you.
Exactly.
What just happened?
No, man, it's crazy.
So yeah, and the other thing too, I was really, really lucky to have. I had some really, really good guys.
Yeah.
That helped me stay in today.
Mm-hmm.
They just helped me stay in today. That this is just it's how you're feeling today, but it'll be all right.
Yep.
Not that soft. They were a little bit more
harsh,
pointed about it, a little bit harsher about it. But they, I had, my bunkmate in prison was Glover, and I got lucky.
Yeah.
With that guy, he had been down a long time. He was an addict. He was trying to make his life better.
Yep.
He was trying to do all the things right, knowing that he didn't want to go back.
Yep.
Once he got out. And just a good dude.
Yeah, no, you turned me on to Glover, and I mean, Glover is a hell of a success story for sure.
Oh, he's just such a great guy, great family.
Yep.
And good people. And, you see what he's doing with his life, man. Yeah. And, those are the wins.
Yeah.
Those are the wins.
That's a win.
That's a straight win. And it couldn't happen to a better man.
Yeah.
It couldn't happen to a better man. So he was my bunkmate. And for, I don't know, out of the 14 months, maybe for 8 or 9 of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, big share. I got in RDAP a little bit earlier than my class started.
Yeah.
So I was in there, and then I stayed after, and he stayed. So because there was open bunks, and I don't know, man, it was just good. I mean, he listened to a lot of my bullshit. Stroby was there.
Yeah.
And he listened to a lot of my bullshit, and called me on it when it was real. And
that's a good thing about prison. You get called on your own bullshit, right?
Absolutely.
Bullshit doesn't walk very far without being called on it in prison.
Another guy that was in my right there in my you had in the RDAP, you had the 4 bunks.
Yeah.
Was Hector Mota. I don't know if you remember Hector.
Yeah, I remember Hector.
Great dude.
Yeah.
Great guy. Great family.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I
should have him on the podcast. He'd be a good guy.
He's a great guy, man. I just think about all these guys, and I think about them, a lot, about, I wonder what they're doing.
Yeah. That's one of the things I think about, Mike, is that you have such a weird thought, your mind makes it out to be so much worse than it really is when you're going into prison. And, I come away with it. There was a lot of good guys that I ran into in prison. And, I've interviewed a lot of them, and, everybody makes mistakes and everybody gets, into tight spots, but it's how you handle that challenge, how you get through it is what makes you a winner or loser. And, I still think, knowing what I know of the guys that were in Leavenworth, there's so many good guys that are in there, and smart guys, Hughes.
Yeah, Leavenworth was Leavenworth was better than my halfway house.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. God,
it wasn't even
house
close.
in St. Louis was like a war zone.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably within the first week that I got to the halfway house, they were hooking up my one of my roommates for heroin use.
Yeah.
And it was just like, holy shit. Okay,
Well, walk me back, Hughes, because you got out, or before you got out, that 6-month time period before you get to the door, things get a little weird because you start thinking, I'm going to re-enter. I'm heading into freedom, which is a good thing, but it's also a thing that, that, it's going to be different. How did you handle that?
Well, I was really, we have people that help us throughout our life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just the way it's just the way that it works out. Some of them we recognize, some of them we don't. Because, typically the people that helped me that I didn't recognize their help at the time was because of my ego.
Yeah.
How
honest is that? That's so true. Me too. Me too.
For
sure.
But now I can look back at my life and look at all the people that have given to me everything they could possibly give to contribute to my success.
Mm-hmm.
At whatever level of success I get to enjoy as a human being. But one of the guys, so when I left to go to prison, I was working at a car store. And I'm not going to mention the car store, just, working at a car store and the general manager, who's a friend of mine today, said, look, your job's going to be waiting for you when you get out.
Wow.
I was like, and who says that? Right. Okay. I signed in at the halfway house and I called him. I had a phone.
Who picked you up when you got released from prison?
My wife and my daughter.
How awesome is that?
That was cool. We stayed, we had a hotel in Leavenworth and then drove home the next day because I got out, for some reason I got out later in the day or whatever,
Yeah.
It was afternoon. It was longer drive back. So we just stayed. But, so the next day, when I check into the halfway house and everything, I had already made contact with the employer and he said, I'll have a car there tomorrow for you to pick you up, bring you to the office, and we'll get you a demo so you can drive back and forth to work. So I'm driving from Springfield.
Mike.
Yeah, so I'm driving an hour a day. Yeah, so I've got a job. I go right back into my same position, earning good money.
Yeah.
So my shift, so the halfway house, you have to be at the house if you're not at work, right? Well, I went. My shift started at 8 a.m. Didn't have a chance to go to the gym, so I'd get up at 5 at the halfway house, grab a quick bite to eat, get on the road at 5:30, get to the gym at 6:30, right? Work out for 45 minutes, get showered up, and go to the office. And I'd stay at the office from 8 in the morning until 9 at night.
Yeah, because you don't want to go back.
Because I don't want to go back.
Right.
So I was just a machine for 6 months, But I look at the opportunity that Greg gave me.
What a great opportunity. Right out of prison.
Yeah, right out of prison. Great opportunity. I worked my ass off for that amount of time and got out of the halfway house, moved back into the house. And then, Shannon and I got remarried.
How awesome is that? I mean, Shannon and you were divorced in 2002. Mm-hmm. And you got remarried in 2016. Wow. What a success story that is.
Yeah, it's been a blessing.
How are the kids?
Oh, fantastic, man. I've got Patrick is our oldest. He'll be 30 this year. He'll be 30 in August, and he's got.
I'm getting ready to have a 30-year-old too. Yeah. Yeah,
we got 2 grandkids, Sean and Finley.
Wow.
And and that's amazing. Being a grandparent is you get to try and make up for all the things that you screwed up. And
they go home.
Yeah, and then we got Colin. He lives up in Kansas City. Yeah. Great kid, working hard, doing well. And then Morgan, our daughter, she's our youngest. She's 24.
Yeah.
And she lives in Boston. She's doing great.
That's awesome.
She's doing great. So we're just our family looks at our life with gratitude today.
Yeah.
We have a lot of gratitude. We made a decision, a couple of years ago to make some changes because the kids were gone, so we had an opportunity that we took. It's been a success from the lifestyle front. We have more of a remote work situation.
Mm-hmm.
My days are active in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
I spend, that I talked to you about that.
Yeah, I'm so proud of you though, with Mike, with what you've done and what you've been through and how you stayed consistent on tackling that. It's every day is a success, right?
Yeah. And what's crazy, Brent, is that I've probably in the past year, I started getting really entrenched in it over the past year because I realized that it's not about me. It's about other people,
Mm-hmm.
trying to help them, put your hand back and help someone.
Yeah.
But, I've gotten several calls this year from people that I've known for years. Just as an example, I got a phone call from a friend in Vegas who said, "Hey, I just wanted to call and let you know, do you remember so-and-so?" Yeah, I do. I think he was a drug and alcohol abuse counselor. Yeah, they found him hanging in his bedroom last night.
Wow.
And there's a guy that just didn't want to do it anymore. Couldn't do it anymore. Gave up. So, this addiction is a serious matter. It's real.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's come out even more now after these last 2 years that we've endured under the.
Yeah. Everybody's had a little taste of prison in the last 2 years, right?
Yeah, everybody has their own opinion on the pandemic, so I'll stay off of it. But we certainly know the math.
Yes,
we know that overdoses are up. We know that use is up.
Right. People not going to get checked for their hearts and the cancer and all the other things that go on with that. Yeah, I know.
So addiction's real. It's here. It's not going anywhere, and it's important for people that have been blessed by other people to try and do something.
But Mike, you are living. I can see it in your face. You're living the good life. You're living the business. You got that going on in your head. You're making things happen. Your kids are good. You're living where you want to live.
Mm-hmm.
You've made the changes that you want to make. What do you think would be your biggest takeaway from all this stuff that you've gone through? Because every time that you've hit something, you figured out how to walk through, around, underneath, crawl over the top of it. What do you think is your biggest takeaway through everything that you've been through in your life?
That's a great question. Because
you've done a lot.
I think for me, because of all the failures, when I look at things in my life, the failures, I think it's if you have to have an approach of it's not final until I'm in the ground.
Absolutely.
I can get past this. I can get over this. I can come back from this. I can recover from this. Yeah. I can meet this challenge. Whatever it is that's placed in front of me, if I'm drawing a breath, I have a chance.
Love it.
I love that. That's how I believe, and,
well, you've lived it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing I think, Mike, that you have done a great job with is that you learn from your mistakes. Your mistakes don't define you. They make you wiser. And if you're not growing, you're not making mistakes. You just don't want to make the same mistake twice, right?
Yeah. You do the best you can not to. I can't. I mean, that dance, that relapse dance, was the same mistake over and over and over again. And that was something that I just kept beating myself up over. Because you just I guess the shame and guilt.
Yeah, but somehow you somehow at some point you became committed. I remember my grandpa used to say, Brent, you know the difference between the ham and the eggs at your breakfast? He said, that chicken's involved. That pig, he's damn committed.
That's true.
You got committed somewhere in there. And I got to tell you, I just think everything that you've done, Mike, and I've wanted to interview you for so long, and we've talked about this because you and I we're close, we stay in touch, and I just think it's so cool on so many different levels of what you've had to deal with. You haven't given up. You haven't given in.
Yeah.
And you've kept being yourself, and you decided, hey, no matter what, I'm going to get through this. I like that.
I can't take back anything that's happened.
Yeah.
I can move past it, and and I just shared this with a guy the other day. There's amends that we have to make in our life, right?
Sure.
We go back.
Everybody does.
We got to make these amends, right? There's other things, Brent, that I'll never be able to. There's people that I have in my life every day that there is no amends that I can make verbally with them. I have to make a daily living amends, and that is. This is what I'm going to do every day, even on the days when I don't want to do it, because it's the right thing to do, not only for me, but more importantly for them.
Yeah, it's actions.
Yeah. And it's the actions that I have to try and impart. And some days I'm successful, some days I'm not. But I can tell you is that I get up every day, and I talked to you a little earlier in the call here about. That organization, regimentation, structure. My day is really super structured again. And I think that it's not necessarily what leads to success in your career, although it contributes to it, but in overall life.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I get up, my family can count on me that if I leave the house, or if Shannon wakes up and I'm not here, she knows based on looking at her watch where I'm at.
Yep.
She knows.
No, I like it. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, she knows where I'm at. So, and that's important to me.
Sure.
Because that's a part of the security for family.
Yep.
Right. That's part of the security for family. So, but yeah, man, it's been a hard journey, but it's I think everything that we do is what leads us up to where we're at today.
Yep. I so agree. And everything you've been through is what projects you forward and onward. Hughes, is there anything I haven't asked you that you wanted to say?
No.
You've said some good stuff. You put out some really good nuggets of stuff. This has been fun interviewing you, by the way.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot more about you than I did when we were walking the fence.
Yeah, I think we're all just focused on that protection, that wall a little bit when we're there.
Yeah, a little bit.
There's a wall there. You can't help it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, I think it's great what you're doing. I'm super excited to see what's going to happen in the weeks and months to come. It's so cool.
I appreciate
so cool that you decided to do this.
It's fun. It's fun to have this platform for everybody to have an opportunity to be able to tell their story. Michael Hughes, thank you so much for being my guest today. I've wanted you on this show for a long time, and it's been fun talking to you. For those who are still looking for a book out there's a book. It's called Nightmare Success. Check it out. It's written by me. Everybody, Nightmare Success, in and out. Thanks for listening today.